Hello, welcome to IT Commoditization. This is Debate 8, The Con Perspective. Team members are Kirthi Banda, Shane Collier, and Ryan Sellers. The premise is that the widespread use of information technology means that IT is increasingly becoming a commodity, like energy, rather than a source of possible competitive advantage. So what is a commodity? A commodity is a raw material. It's something that can be bought and sold as a discrete component. While they may differ slightly, commodities are essentially uniform across producers. The evolution of an industry. IT was once custom work, a collection of one-off systems and software crafted by individuals. Object-oriented programming introduced the concepts of objects, and so objects and servers changed all of this. They became reusable, interchangeable commodities. This worked well, so we tried it with outsourced vendors, and with the economic downturn of 2008, we tried it with staff. All of this worked well. A mosaic of staff and services made up a smoothly interlocking and functioning puzzle of pieces to fulfill our needs, right? Well, what happens when a piece of the puzzle is missing or unobtainable? Sometimes the pieces don't fit. So we try to make them fit in order to meet our schedules, our needs, our commitments. Sometimes we do this through heroic efforts, the classic square peg round hole. The commoditization of IT staff resulting from the post-dot-com boom and enhanced by the economic downturn of 2008, there's been a shift from permanent staff to contractors. Companies stopped looking for well-rounded developers and contracting specialists. There is developed the concept that a developer is a commodity. They are essentially seen as interchangeable parts. They are all equal from a managerial perspective. A modern industrial revolution. But contractors, trouble in paradise. Pay differences. Contractors make substantially more, often twice as much as a permanent staff. This tends to build resentment to the permanent programmer sitting next to them within the company. Often the contractor would not ordinarily work outright for the company currently contracting them. This kind of implies that you can't hire good people. You have to bring in specialists because the permanent staff simply aren't up to the job. This can become demoralizing for permanent staff. It can also show a lack of management because often contractors can be brought in at the end of a project due to a crisis. It's well known that putting more people onto a project that's in trouble at the end is not a good practice, but this doesn't stop people from doing it, and when they do it, they reach out to contractors. So this can reflect poorly on managers. Typically, contractors work as hired guns. They don't have as much commitment to the project. They will be gone and not have to live with the consequences of their actions, code, or the systems they build. That will be someone else's problem. Usually, it falls to the permanent staff. All of this leads to a lack of team cohesion, causing difficulties, missed deadlines, and the inevitable finger pointing. Because of these and additional reasons, companies are bringing their staffs back in-house rather than using individual contractors. Software developers are not interchangeable parts, existing as a commodity. Up to this point, we've been looking at the micro scale of outsourcing, bringing contractors in-house to work and participate as part of our individual teams. Next, we'll look at outsourcing on the macro scale, contracting our work to external vendors as a commodity.
Some companies are bringing their IT departments back in-house in order to gain a competitive advantage rather than outsource to contractors. Some of the reasons for this include quality control, threats to confidentiality, and a loss of managerial oversight. When a company outsources their IT, the price is set in the contract. This means that there is a greater incentive for the contractor to cut corners and reduce costs to obtain greater profits. Anytime that confidential data is being transferred between parties or being stored by a third party, there's a greater risk of that data being stolen or accessed without permission. If the data is kept within the company, however, there are ways to mitigate this threat, such as keeping the data on a network that is not connected to the internet. When outsourcing IT to a contractor, you are turning over managerial control to a company that may have a different set of standards and values than your company. An example of a company that is bringing their IT back in-house is General Motors. In 2012, General Motors announced they would be moving from having 90% of their IT work being outsourced to HP to 90% of it being in-house. And the CIO says, transforming our internal IT operations will give us the resources, tools, and flexibility we need to provide better services and products to our global GM customers. Storing company data in the cloud or utilizing cloud computing services such as Amazon AWS or Microsoft Azure inherently suffers from the same data confidentiality threats that outsourcing does. These threats include data interception and theft, the loss of physical control over servers, and insecure disposal of hardware and data. As I said previously regarding outsourcing, when data is being transferred and stored remotely, it can be intercepted and stolen more easily. Companies also no longer have physical control over the servers, and if it's a shared data warehouse, they may also not have control over the security procedures in place to gain physical access to those servers. And companies no longer are in charge of disposing of the old hard drives that may contain confidential data.
Hi, this is Keerthi, and I'm going to talk about use of IT by social media to gain competitive advantage. I'm going to take a specific example of Facebook. The challenge for Facebook engineers has been to keep the site up and running smoothly in spite of handling close to 500 million active users. Like we all know, Facebook today is one of the most widely used social media with close to 1.23 billion monthly active users using it as of 2013 as per Facebook Newsroom. If we try to explore the softwares behind the Facebook, we can realize the fact that without widespread use of IT to gain the competitive advantage, Facebook would never have achieved the status of being the world's most used social media. Facebook always modified the approach to existing softwares to scale to its requirements. There are custom-written systems like Haystack, a highly scalable object store used to serve Facebook's immense amount of photos. As it is not just about being able to handle billions of photos, analysis says that Facebook serves around 1.2 million photos per second, which is a huge number, and being able to develop a photo storage retrieval system to handle such huge volume is challenging, and without IT, it would never have been possible. Now let us look at the impact of IT in increasing the capacity to innovate and thereby increase the competitive advantage. Let us look at the area of big data analytics. There were some key and interesting findings from an Accenture and GE study published, which says that 84% of enterprises see big data analytics changing the industry's competitive landscape in the next year. Also, 89% industries believe that companies that do not adapt a big data analytics strategy in the next year risk losing market share and momentum. Analysis of large data sets, so-called big data, becomes a key basis for innovation and gaining competitive advantage. It enables the enterprises to differentiate their competitive strengths with clients, media, and investors. Big data is one of the examples of how IT can be used to gain competitive advantage. Real or near real-time information delivery is one of the defining characteristics of big data analytics. Though there are several issues to be addressed to capture full potential of big data has quickly become the highest priority for aviation, manufacturing, and healthcare industries to mention.